Okay. So there are so many videos on internet, so many blogs on partitioning, right? So what is that is different that I'm going to present? Definitely, I will ensure, irrespective of your experience, you will get something new for sure. So that is my promise. And I am expecting at least perhaps 8 to 10 classes for partitioning. Only maybe it can go up or it can come down. It depends upon the speed at which we are moving it, and there are other factors, as you know. So perhaps I think I will take roughly 10 classes only for partitioning. So you can imagine um, the amount of um, the amount of knowledge that you are going to gain after these classes with respect to partitioning. Okay, so even if you have not worked on partitioning, it's okay because I'm going to show you from the present. I mean, from the start. So it's like basic. You can expect, you can learn from the scratch. So there is no prerequisite saying that you have to work on partitioning to understand these concepts because I'm starting from the scratch. Okay, and just to let you know, see, these are all the links what I gathered for partitioning. So I think I have not taken classes for almost 2 months now. So as you know, I came to Ireland and searching for the house and so many things. So in the meanwhile, I worked on all these topics. So there are plenty that I need to share with. Okay, so you can expect a lot and you can ask me questions because partitioning is something that is very tricky and very difficult to answer. Okay, so I will ensure that you will gain everything. That is my promise. So if you have any questions when I'm, explaining the concepts, you can break me up anytime. Okay. So let me start with partitioning. So first question first, as you know, what is partitioning? So why should I go for partitioning? You will get to know the answers, not now, by moving through the videos. I mean, by I will take classes continuously on partitioning. So after that, you will get to know these answers because even if I explain it theoretically, it will not be able to, it is not that easy to digest. So what I'm planning is I will first go with some important concepts of partitioning and I will demo them and then I will come back. It's like reverse engineering, I can say. So mostly we are doing reverse engineering with partitioning. I feel that is the right way to learn partitioning because if I talk continuously with practicals, I mean with theoretically, it doesn't make any sense. So most of the stuff will be practical. Everything will be practical. Okay. So you might have heard that partitioning is main reason going with partitioning is for performance. So if someone says it is mainly for performance, that is not completely true. That is the first statement that I would like to pass. If you see a huge table and if you see it will benefit by partitioning just for purely for performance reasons, I won't agree with that completely. There are performance benefits, but not what people think. Okay, partitioning, if I do partitioning on a heavy table as a big table, everyone feels that it will work as expected, but that is not the case. It's not meant for performance. There are few benefits with performance side, but the main benefit with partitioning is management. So use the terms properly when you are appearing for interviews or when you are, you know, learning for yourself. Okay, partitioning is mainly for management purpose. It's not mainly for performance. That is the first statement that I would like to pass. So if you see a huge table, don't straight away jump into that saying that, okay, I need to partition this so that I will gain performance right away. That is not the case. Okay, there are many problems with partitioning that you have to understand, many problems. So I will explain all those problems later. But first, I will start from the scratch, as I said. The first thing first, the first statement, what I'm passing right now is partitioning is mainly for management purpose. And you will get few benefits with performance, not completely of what you are thinking. Okay, it's when you see a huge table, don't think that I have to partition the table so that I will straight away get the performance benefits. That is not the case. There are other things that I will show you. I will talk about that. So did you understand this first statement? Partitioning is not completely for performance. It is mainly for management. So when I say management, what is management? So what is management? So I will teach you everything. So I'm just giving you theoretical experience for the moment. So once I complete that, you will go into practical stuff. So what is management? What is management? Management is nothing but imagine there are some millions of records in your table. Okay, and you have to perform purge operation or archiving, whatever it is. What is the difference between purge and archiving? Purge, you are going to delete those records. Archiving, you are going to save those records in some other table, right? So if you wanted to leverage this activity on a huge table, that is the table that is being used mostly by your application, and it's a 24/7 application, and you wanted to delete some archive that old data, obsolete data. It takes lot of time to carry out that, and it requires that operation to be performed in chunks, in small operations. There are many things that many suggestions people will pass on, right? When I say delete operation on a huge table, how will you carry out that? So usually you have to break that in chunks. Chunks means, for example, I'm going with 10,000 records. So you have to delete operations in smaller chunks so that your log file will not grow drastically. Why we are going with chunks? Why not at a time? If you do at a time, what happens is that you are encouraging the locking mechanism, means there are high chances for blocking, and the control on the log file, you will not be able to control the growth of the log file. Those are the two reasons. One is locking problem, the other one is log file growth. These are the two challenges what I have if I perform delete operation on a large table. Okay, if I go with partitioning, on that large table, okay, so I can perform that operation in seconds. It's just a matter of seconds, not even a minute. So that is the advantage when I make use of partitioning. So I said partitioning is mainly meant for manageability. It's not meant for performance. There are few cases, but I will say it's mainly meant for management. Again, at the same time, imagine you got some data and you have to load that data into your main OLTP database. So that data is in CSV file or flat file, whatever it is. So it is there in some other source. So I have to get that data instantly into our main OLTP database. Usually what I have to do, I have to go with SSIS, or I have to go with insert into table name, or I have to do BCP or import export. There are other options, but every operation, every mechanism will take a lot of time. But if I go with partitioning, if I have partitioning mechanism for that table, so I can get that data instantly. So those are the two important operations that you have to understand when it comes to partitioning. Okay, so one is switch in, means you are getting the data. That is nothing but import. You are importing the data from some other source. And as I said previously, delete operation is nothing but export. You have to export the data, means you have to archive the data to some other table, or if you want, you can delete also. That is nothing but truncate operation. That is a different story. I will talk about that later. So switch out, switch in. These are the two important operations when it comes to partitioning. So those are the main benefits of partitioning. But again, as I said, those two operations might look very easy, but there are many challenges with those two operations. So partitioning is mainly meant for, it's a very challenging topic. So there are too many challenges that you will come to know. So I will explain that. I mean, I have plenty of scenarios that I need to discuss. So if you have any questions, I'm stopping here now. Let me know.
Yeah, Vamshi. So, what I mean to say, what kind of editions, SQL editions can support this partitioning?
Partitioning is there from 2005, basically starts from 2005, and it supports on enterprise edition. And from 2016 SP1, we do have some kind of support for partitioning, but it's not completely complete feature of what we get on enterprise edition. I would say partitioning is mainly on enterprise edition. With 2016 SP1, there are few enhancements. But if you have only standard editions, the problem is you have to go with partition views. And by the way, I'm going to teach you partition views also. So these two topics, partition views and partitioning, they are interrelated. And if you wanted to get the best performance, you have to make use of both the factors. It's not just partitioning. So that is the reason I just kept partition views aside, because if I just start with partition views, it will be a daunting task for you to understand. So I will make sure that you will understand partition views and partitioning, and how to implement both of them on a big environments, on a very large database.
Yeah, so is this enhancement partitioning will be applicable for Azure and MI instances or only for
Partitioning is there on MI for sure, and partitioning on Azure SQL. Let me show you this one. I think it is something like sharding, but that is different. Of course, sharding is different, but still, there is a series that I went through. I will talk about lastly about that Azure SQL. Yes, I'm going to touch the same topic on on-prem or IaaS. Both are one at the same. MI as well as Azure SQL. Azure SQL will be at the very last. Okay. So because on Azure SQL, it is slightly different, and how to implement that is even I need to work on that topic. I didn't work on that. And by the way, when I say partitioning, there is one more thing that you have to understand. Okay, let me show you the figure. Yeah, you are about to ask something. Okay.
okay, horizontal and vertical. Okay.
Uh, so partitioning is basically horizontal way. We are segregating based on rows. It's not vertical partitioning what we are doing. Vertical partitioning is different. Okay, so we are not going to talk about vertical partitioning at the moment. We are going to deal with horizontal partitioning. Okay, so if you see this picture, remember this picture. So this picture talks a lot, and at the very, I mean, after having few sessions, you will get to know the importance of this picture. Okay, so why I'm saying this picture, it is very, very important if you can leverage this functionality on your real-time environments. Okay, so keep this picture. I will just explain this picture briefly. We'll come back to that picture later. But imagine, okay, you have sales table, okay, and you have current year. Imagine the current year is 2021. Of course, it is 2024, but imagine, because this picture is from SQL skills. I brought that picture from one of their classes. Okay, so that is the reason I'm just saying 2021. Imagine this as 2021 because it helps you to understand betterly. Okay, so this picture, what the author is trying to convey here is, by the way, the credit goes to Kimberly Tripp because she's the one who explained these topics very clearly. Okay, so I learned from her and many other blogs I went through. So after gaining the knowledge, I'm taking classes on partitioning. It's not that I'm just straight away taking classes on partitioning. Okay, so what she is saying is, okay, what she is saying, I'll just give you a glance. You don't need to worry. We'll go through practicals, but I'm just giving you a glance. I said you have to make use of partition views and partition tables to attain the best functionality. So it's a combination that we need to leverage to get the outstanding benefit or best performance on your tables. So what are partition views? Yes, we'll discuss that later. And these are the partitioning tables. So PV stands for partitioning views. PT stands for partitioning tables. Okay. So imagine you have sales data, which is the current year. Imagine the current year is 2021. Okay. And you have performed partitioning on monthly basis. Just we'll talk about that later, but just understand the picture. Okay. So 2021, January, February, March, April. So we have 12 partitions for 2021. Okay. Imagine the current month is April. So we have partitions till April, and we made partitions, empty partitions up to month year end. Okay, so we have partitioned this table. Okay, and now what you are doing is any data, any data which is less than 2021, you are what you have to do is, instead of maintaining one single table, I repeat, this is the important statement, very, very important statement. Instead of maintaining one single large table, okay, we are breaking the tables into multiple tables. One large table will be will break that single table into multiple tables. You might say this is not going to work, and it is very difficult because you may have many dependencies with that table, so many things. Yes, I do understand, but if you can break your biggest table biggest table, okay, into multiple tables, then you will get the best performance. Okay. So what she is trying to convey here is, so any data less than sorry. One second, guys. Any data less than 2021, I will create a separate table. So you may ask how to create the separate table. I will show you via demos. You don't need to worry, but this is the very important thing. Even in your real time, guys, if you have a very large table and if you think you have done partitioning on that table, and you may imagine everything will work as expected, that is not the case. As I said, partitioning is not meant for performance. So just by doing partitioning, you may think that all my problems will be resolved. That is not the case. It doesn't work like that. Okay, if you have a large table, okay, if you have a large table, what you have to do is you have to break that table into multiple tables. That is what you should do. And what she is trying to convey here is anything less than 2020, sorry, anything less than 2021, it goes into separate table by name sales 2020. And anything with 2019, again, it goes into sales 2019. Whether we will partition the table or not, it depends. Okay, so what I am trying to convey here is you have to break your important table into multiple tables. So that is the main picture that I would like to show you. So that is how it works in real time also. So perhaps I will try to make use of Stack Overflow because it is 60 GB. So I will try to implement this concept, whatever you are seeing on Stack Overflow, or else on next nearest biggest table what I have. If I'm not able to do it on Stack Overflow, because for implementing partitioning, we need to have unique data. So I will try to make use of Stack Overflow. If it is not possible, I will come up with some other database. Okay, so just keep this picture and I'll come back to this picture later. Okay, any questions?
Yeah, Vamsi. So I have read one article actually today morning. Okay, so regarding this horizontal, so
Yeah.
if we have multiple file groups, we can map it, right?
No, I didn't talk about file groups. I didn't say anything with respect to file groups. So
No,
anything
no,
what I
it's
said,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
only the topics what I discussed. My main two statements till now are if you have a big table, okay,
Yes,
break that big
we can
table
scatter
into
it. Yeah. Okay.
multiple tables. That is the first statement. And
Okay.
partitioning, just by doing partitioning, it won't work like what you are expecting. You will get performance issues even if you're done partitioning.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
Vamsi. Yeah,
That is
got it.
second statement. Third statement, I said partitioning is mainly meant for manageability. Means if I wanted to purge or archive the data, it can be instantaneous. Or if I wanted to bring in the data from other source, it can be instantaneous. So I'm talking about switch in and switch out. These are the terms that we're gonna use when we are doing partitioning. So switch in, switch out. Okay, break your table into multiple tables. That is the second statement what I'm passing. Okay, so just keep these two things with you for the moment. Any
So,
questions? Yeah,
yeah, Vamsi,
go ahead.
yeah,
Zain.
yeah. Can you just share the small idea on the horizontal partitioning and vertical partitioning? Afterward, also, it will be great. That's one.
We are going to see demos on it. So just by looking at this picture, don't think that I'm showing this picture. So we have plenty
Okay,
of
okay.
demos. So you can't even imagine that I'm going to talk so many scenarios. So it's just like I'm bringing the whole world into whole world on partitioning, whole topics on partitioning, whatever that is available on the internet at one place. So you need not refer any other things. So that is what I'm trying to do with my classes. There are so many things. So I wanted to learn all those things and I wanted to present that.
Thanks,
It's
Vamsi.
yeah, it's very difficult to be very frank, but let's let's try our best. Vertical partitioning, we are not going to touch about vertical partitioning at the moment. We are just dealing with the regular partitioning, which is nothing but horizontal partitioning. Horizontal is nothing but rows, vertical is nothing but columns. So why I'm not touching vertical partitioning? Because I wanted to teach column store indexes after this. Then I will come back to vertical partition. Then it makes sense. So column store indexes, it's a different thing. Okay. So you have to understand column store indexes. And if we merge column store indexes and partitioning, um, you don't even know the advantages of that. So these are all very complicated topics, guys, especially for junior DBAs like from 3 to, I would say, even 8, 10. You need to practice this a lot. Okay, these are not easy topics to digest because these are very complicated. And if you wanted to get the best out of it, you have to practice a lot. Even for me, it took really more than 2 months to understand all these topics. So even I have to learn so many things to teach this complicated subject. But definitely, I will make sure you will make you sure that you will understand all these topics. Okay, so let's move on. Yeah,
Yeah, also I have one question. Like,
yeah,
if I have so what you're suggesting is, if we have an existing table,
yeah,
we should break it up based on the years, right?
yes.
So now if I break it up, then because they are being queried, so do you suggest then we create views to read data on top of them? Then that's because
Yeah,
that's
we
more.
have to make use of views to fetch the data across multiple years. So that is
Tables,
the
yeah.
reason we have partition views also. Partition views is available even on standard edition. And if you
Okay.
wanted to leverage partitioning on standard edition, we don't have entire partitioning features on standard edition. So we have to go with partition views. So there are few challenges with partition views. And few advantages. So both partition tables and partition views, they have their downsides and as well as their advantages. So we have to mix them up to get the best output. So that is the reason I'm saying you have to mix views and partitioning tables both together to understand this topic. So I'm not touching partition views at the moment. First, I will make you feel comfortable with partitioning. So once you are comfortable with partitioning tables, then we'll go with partitioning views. Um, any limitations or prerequisites before implementing partitioning? Yes, there are plenty of limitations, plenty of things before implementing partitioning. But as I said, I will not talk about limitations or when should we go with partitioning at the moment. Because if I say, you will not be able to understand some topics. I mean, especially the junior DBS. That's the reason I wanted to show with basics first. Let them understand what is partitioning. Let them feel comfortable. Then we will go to the advanced topics. Okay. Anyone who is less than 5 years here, they will struggle a lot to understand because these topics are very difficult to digest. Who who don't know partitioning at all are okay. Ashwin.
Vamsi,
Yeah,
Yeah.
even I'm also having a very less experience.
Vamsi is Salman here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for your session. I just joined. So I
Okay.
was just thinking, whatever you are saying about the partitioning, partitioning will helpful definitely for the large table, right? If we have a lot of, I mean to say the table size is very large, the
Hmm.
partitioning will help us to boost up the performance of the query,
No,
right?
that's what I said. That is a wrong statement. It's not for
Okay.
performance boost. Straight away, I'm saying it's not for performance boost. It's for manageability purpose.
Okay.
So
So if we are managing the database tables by doing the partitioning, so we
yeah,
can do this by doing the file group also, right? Different
no,
file group in
see,
table also.
file group, boundaries, scheme, function. I didn't discuss anything. I'm just saying my first statement was, as you just joined, partitioning is not meant for performance. Okay. It's not meant for performance. The performance gains are there, but it is very different than what you are thinking. Partitioning is mainly meant for manageability. It's mainly meant for manageability. And if I wanted to leverage delete or insert operations, which is nothing but switch out or switch in instantaneously, then I will get huge advantage if I have partitioning on that. And that too, there are too many considerations that I have to maintain to perform those operations. Switch in and switch out. Only those two statements I just passed till now. I didn't discuss
Okay.
anything else.
Okay. Just want to know, it is not related to file group. Means file group is
No,
also
no.
doing that kind
File
of
group,
job, right?
files. I didn't discuss anything. So no, that is different topic altogether. Okay, manageability. When I say manageability, my main focus is delete archive, which is nothing but switch out, and bringing the data from other source, which is nothing but switch in. That's it. Only two statements. Nothing else. No file group, no
Okay.
partition scheme, no partition function. No, I didn't discuss that topics. And whether you have to go with entirely with primary file group or different file groups, different drives.
Mhm.
No, those are all different stories. I'm not touching that at the moment. At the
Okay.
moment.
So okay, the last question is, maybe
Yeah.
I'm asking too much. So initially, I just want to clarify. So partitioning will help, to purge the data.
Yes. Purge or
That is,
archiving the
yeah.
data can be instantaneous if you have done it properly. Okay. So it is nothing but there are too many challenges even to perform that operation. So my only single statement what I passed till now is it's mainly meant for manageability. Switch out, switch in. Those are the two advantages. Okay, that can be performed instantaneously. That's the only statement what I passed. And the second important statement is, if you have a bigger table, try to break down that into multiple tables. Rather than just maintaining a single partitioning table, you have to break the table into multiple tables. Why? You'll get to know the answer lately. For the moment, these are the two statements what I passed. Okay, let's
Okay,
move on.
thank you so much.
Yeah,
You,
no
you
problem.
carry.
So before I move on, so first, as I said, we are going to do reverse engineering with respect to partitioning, because if I explain the topics with theoretically, it won't help. So I would like to do reverse engineering. Means first I will teach some demos and I will come back slowly to the basics. Okay, so I will definitely ensure that you are going to gain the critical concepts very neatly. Okay, that is my assurance. So just wait. When it comes to partitioning, we have terms like file groups, okay, partitioning scheme, partitioning function. So there are few terms like merge operation, split operation, all these things. So I don't think, I believe, I certainly believe that many of you have not worked on partitioning for sure, because you might have not given an opportunity, or else you are maintaining in a different fashion, because there is no guarantee that we have to go with partitioning all the time. That's not the case. There can be different cases. So that is the reason first I would like to go with simple funda, and then you'll get to know all these topics. Let me show you all the links what I made use of. So I will share these links. You can read those links later. So first, I would like to present the first link, what you are seeing on my screen. Okay, so, and before this also, I would like to talk something else. Not this one. I think this is the best one. So coming to partitioning, as I said, we have something called as partition function and partitioning scheme. Okay, so what is partitioning scheme and what is partitioning function? Okay, partitioning function in simple terms, it's related to physical alignment of data. Okay, I repeat my statement. Partitioning function and partitioning scheme. There are only two things that you need to understand when it comes to partitioning. One is partitioning scheme. The other one is partitioning function. Okay, I'm repeating my statement. Partitioning function and partitioning scheme. Okay, just keep that in your mind. Scheme, it's a logical segregation, whereas partitioning function is physical segregation. Just keep that terms in your mind. Let's understand the topics first slowly. Let me go with MS SQL tips, because that is the most easiest way to make you feel comfortable. Okay, so you can see this on the screen, right? So we have something called as partitioning function. Okay, partitioning function, and there is something called as partitioning scheme. These two things that you have to understand. So before going through these two things, let me just see if we have that concept. Somebody was asking me something, right? 1 second. On this one, there should be something else. I will check that a bit later. Let me first explain what is partitioning function and partitioning scheme. Okay. Any questions before I explain this? Because as I said, it takes a lot of time to digest these topics. Please break me up if you are not able to understand. Okay. Yeah. I heard a noise. Nothing like that? Okay.
Yeah, Vamsi,
Okay.
one question.
Hmm.
So, if we are implementing partitioning on particular table, so it does that means the table needs to be split into different tables, or like it can be kept as a single entity and we can implement partitioning on the same. Like you are saying, if we are partitioning, we need to segregate or create a different parts of our table.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is it like that only, or by keeping single table only we can implement as a partition?
No, if you have partitioning, most cases what I have seen in real time is you will maintain single table instead of maintaining multiple tables. And You think that since you have done partitioning on single table, it improves your performance. That is the basic myth what people have. Just by doing partitioning on single table, okay, single table. Imagine you have sales data and you have information from 2015. Okay, so it is now 2024, means almost 9 years you have that data, and 9 years of data is sitting inside one single table. Okay, one single table. So you have done partitioning on that table. So if you have done a partitioning like that by maintaining older data in the same table, then you will face so many problems. So that is where you have to use your skills as a senior DBA. Okay, so if you ask me, if just imagine you have sales data from 2015 to 2019. So anyone knows how to make use of whiteboard here? I do have whiteboard facility, but where can I get that whiteboard here? One second, guys. So just to draw something up. Okay, it's not coming. Let it be. So just imagine that you have data. I think there is what is that software that I made use of? Draw something, draw.io. I think so.
Yeah, it's a draw.
Yeah.
Draw.io.
Sometimes my laptop is not in a good shape to obtain the features. Okay. Let's talk about that for a second.
That's why I did partitioning on my laptop.
Partitioning on your laptop. Okay, so imagine I have a table. Okay, so it's a big table, and we have so many years worth of data. Okay, so you are maintaining this data in a single table. You are done partitioning. So, oh my God, I'm very bad at drawing, and people do know about this. Sorry for that. Okay, just imagine we have 2014 data, 2015 here, 2016, 2017, 2018, all the way up to 2024. Okay, so this is a single table. This is a single table, and you have done partitioning on this single table. So if you have done operations like this, and if you think I will gain the performance, that is not the right way. That is what I'm trying to say. If you have a table that contains many years worth of data inside single table, then you will not gain any performance whatsoever. Okay. So if you wanted to leverage the advantages with partitioning, what you have to do is you have to break your data. For instance, I don't want 2015 inside my main table. What I will do is I will create a separate table for 2015, and I will create a separate table for 2016 sales data, 2017, 2018, 2019.
By range we are partitioning.
So, sorry.
I mean, you are doing by range, this partitioning by range. I mean,
Yeah.
for few years.
So we are doing partitioning. We can do partitioning on year basis, monthly basis, day basis, integer basis. So you can use, there are many ways to perform partitioning, but here imagine we are doing it on yearly basis. So what I will do is 2015 data I will not keep in the main table. Okay, what is the main purpose of OLTP? OLTP is mainly meant for online processing transactions, means that my transactions should be super fast, right? So why I'm keeping older data inside my main table? Why should I keep my main table with archival information like the old table? I mean to say 2015 data, 2016 data, it's not required in my main table, right? Why should I keep them? My main table is supposed to take care of only the sales data that is happening right now, means 2024. Perhaps if you want something with 2023, yes, I will keep 2023. Anything lesser than that, like 2022, 21, 20, anything with those years, I will not keep inside my main table. I will separate them into multiple tables. If your table sizes are small, okay, if your table sizes are small, you know the advantages. If your table size is big, there are many problems that I'm going to discuss. Okay, so that is the main intention behind this diagram, like this picture. What is this? This picture. Okay, so why I'm breaking this into multiple tables? There is a certain reason, and I will talk about that reason later. Questions? Okay, so let's move on. I know it will take a lot of time, so please wait to understand this. 1 second. I think. So we can do partitioning on yearly basis. We can do partitioning on quarterly basis, monthly basis, weekly basis, daily basis, even on hourly basis. We can do on every whatever the things what you want. And these are all the data types that are being supported. Date, date time, anything with dates. Usually partitioning will do it on dates. Of course, you can do it on varchar also. We can do it on integer also. These are all the different data types. We will discuss, as I said, we'll do reverse engineering. So first I will just explain the simple topics and then we'll come back to that real requirements. Like why should I go with partitioning? How can I say that this table can be, it's suitable for partitioning? So I will explain those topics later. Okay, so let's come back to the topic and let's first understand the partitioning function and partitioning scheme. I know it's difficult, but try to hold your now for few classes at least. Okay, so what is partitioning function? So what I'm doing is I am dividing my data. I'm dividing my data. So this is logical partitioning. So if I use those terms, it will be difficult again. So let's understand what is being written in this article. Okay, there is something called as partitioning function and partitioning scheme. If you're coming from Oracle background, you can create partitioning at the time of table creation itself. Okay, in Oracle, we can create table partitioning, okay, at the time of creation of the table itself. But that is not the case with SQL Server. SQL Server, we don't have such stuff. Okay, we have to make use of two things when you are doing partitioning. One is partitioning function, okay, and the other one is partitioning scheme. So partitioning function, that is the first step when I have to do when I'm doing with partitioning. Okay, so what it does is it will have criteria to partition data into partitions. Means, so I have to pass the boundaries here. So whatever the values what you are passing inside the partitioning function, these are called as boundaries. Boundary means only the data, whatever the data that is within this boundary will fall into that partitioning. Okay, so again, I will explain slowly. So partitioning function is the first thing that you have to understand when it comes to partitioning. Okay, so the statement, we'll discuss about statement little later. What is being passed with partitioning function is the values. These values are nothing but these are called as boundaries. Okay, the function will create boundaries. So to better understand this, let me come back to this thing. Okay, so here we are doing it on years. Here we are doing it on integer data type. Here we are doing it on varchar data type. So as I said, we can do partitioning on any data type. When I say any data type, not on money or float or not like that. Majorly, you will use partitioning for dates. Majorly, but we have something called as list partitioning. So this is called as list partitioning. So there are few people who works with list partitioning also. That is, I will take one example. As I said, so this is a long list that I have to show you. Okay, this is a big list what I have with me. I have to go with each and everything to give you the best. Okay, so just wait for it. And what I'm trying to show here is partitioning function. Partitioning function, okay, is what we are trying to understand here. So that partitioning function is having something by concept by name boundaries, data boundaries. So what is data boundary? It's nothing but it's kind of a fence where you don't cross that fence. So it's like a fence. So imagine the two nations. So across the two nations, there will be boundaries, right? So when I say India, India is being surrounded by Pakistan, China, and Sri Lanka. Okay, just imagine. So those are all my boundaries. So on the east side, I have a boundary. On the west side, I have a boundary. So in the similar fashion, partitioning function, whatever the values, what I pass, it is having boundaries. That is a limitation. You can't go beyond that point. Any questions? What is partitioning function? What does partitioning function contains?
So it's basically setting up the boundaries.
Setting up the boundaries. That's it. Single word answer. Just setting up the boundaries. I'm just setting up the boundaries. My data.
Suppose we have a table that contains sales data and that is starting from 2000 till 2024. So it is in between the year 2000 to 2024, right?
Yeah. So if you have sales data, so whatever the data what you have, you are just dividing the data into boundaries, just keeping your data into boundaries. So that is the main concept of partitioning function. So when you are doing partitioning function, as I said, you can make use of datetime, you can make use of integer, you can make use of varchar data types. But as I said, most of the scenarios in real time, it will be on date range only. Usually 99% it will be on date range, but there are scenarios where I've seen they have made use of integer also. For integer partitioning, once we complete the date partitioning, I will take a session on integer partitioning. Okay, so we will understand what is integer partitioning also. But before we go on with integer partitioning, I mean to say integer data type partitioning stuff. First, you have to understand the dates. Date is the important thing when it comes to partitioning. Again, I'm repeating, this is not the right way to learn, but since I'm doing reverse engineering, it might sound little difficult initially, but once we complete, definitely you will be able to understand. Because if I touch theoretically, there are a lot many things. It's not at all possible for me to cover all those stuff. That is the reason I'm saying I'm doing reverse engineering for partitioning. Okay, let's start again. So what partition function is doing in my case? So it is creating partitions. It is creating partitions. Okay, based on the boundaries what I am passing. Very simple, very simple. What is partitioning function doing? It is creating partitions for me, means it is dividing my data based on what? Based on the boundaries what I'm passing. I repeat, it is helping me to break my data into partitions based on the values what I'm passing. These values are nothing but boundaries. Any questions with this statement?
So Vamshi, regarding this, shall we go back to your initial picture, like sales data? You have
Yeah.
divided the
Yeah.
data into
Yeah.
tables, into multiple tables. So this
Yeah.
partition function is doing the same, or
Yeah, here, see, just so don't consider this part. Okay, just this blue part, ignore this blue part. Just concentrate on 2021. Okay, so what we are doing for 2021 is we are dividing this data into monthly basis. So it is exactly the same thing, but don't get this picture now. Okay, it's not the right moment to have this picture in your mind. Erase this picture for a second. So just try to focus on this part only. Okay. Okay. Okay.
sure.
To make you comfortable. Okay. Since you asked.
One C, bro.
Yeah.
While creating the partition function, we are giving the data as a data type. If you are creating partition functions for the date, years, we must mention the data type, right? For integers, we have to mention integer.
Yes, see, it's not about definition, guys. So definition, see, it's like create partition function, function name, and the data type. We are not focusing on definition. What we are trying to understand here is what is partitioning function in simple terms. So forget about definition. Definition is here. It is written over here clearly. So I am not discussing the definition. My intention is what partitioning function is doing. It is helping us to break or to divide my data into partitions based on the boundary values what I'm passing. That's it. First, try to understand the simple terms. Then we'll get to know the definitions for them. Okay. Function is helping us to segregate our data based on the values what I pass. Those values are nothing but boundaries. Okay. Boundaries. So this is nothing but I'm splitting my data into multiple partitions. So for that to achieve, we have to pass the data type. So since you asked, I'm just letting you know. So we have to pass the relevant data type. So if you are passing dates, we are dividing our data based on dates. If you're passing integer, we are passing based on integer data type, dividing the data into integer data type. If you are doing it on nvarchar, we are doing it on nvarchar data type. So when you are doing this partitioning function, there are two things that we have to understand. One is right partitioning. Okay, right partitioning. The other one is left partitioning. It's very confusing for many people, even for experience. They will get confused when it comes to this terms, right and left. So right and left, you have to understand this very clearly. Then only you will be able to do anything on partitioning. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Very, 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 very important, guys. You have to understand right partitioning and left partitioning. So those two terms will come under partitioning function. Okay, once you create this partitioning function, it's all about where you have to keep this data. So you are keeping this data on partition scheme. Okay, so partition scheme is nothing but I think Salman was asking this, where to keep my data, whether it is on file group 1 or file group 2. This is different. So we are going to keep our data. So this is actual what can I say is, this is the physical representation of our data. This is logical representation of our data. Here the data is being divided logically. It's just divided. We didn't keep anywhere. If you wanted to keep our data, we are keeping it on partitioning scheme. Means nothing but our file groups. So this is physical representation. This is logical representation. So what is partitioning function? Yeah.
So we can understand like partitioning function is just dividing the table and
Exactly.
setting up the boundaries.
Exactly.
And where it is existing on the physical side, that will decide by the scheme. Means which
Exactly.
file group, which partition will be exist.
Exactly. You got it right. So partition scheme is what you have divided the data inside the partition function. You have to keep that data somewhere. So that somewhere is nothing but it will be done using partition scheme. First, we are dividing the data. Okay. First, we are creating the boundaries for our data. Okay. So that boundary creation is part of partitioning function. So, okay. And since we have partitioning function, we have two things that you have to understand when it comes to partition function. That is nothing but right and left. Okay, so if you read like this, so right means less than or greater than or equal to, left means less than or equal to and greater than. So this is the definition what they have given. So you will never be able to understand this. So let's try to digest this slowly. So that is the reason I come up with this blog. So and what I feel is that this statement or this blog is easy to understand the concepts of right and left. Okay. Again, I repeat, fundamentally right means these statements. So if you understand this, then it makes your life very simple. So rather than remembering less than or greater than or equal to, let's try to understand this very easily. Okay. Very easily. So when I say partitioning function as right, so first we are trying to understand what is right partitioning. Okay. Partitioning function by using of right. Okay. So I have passed three values, 2010, 2015, 2020. Okay. So
partition function is logical segregation, right?
yes, yes.
Schema
Partition,
is physical
partition,
segregation.
yes. Partition scheme is physical. Partition function is logical.
Yeah, starting you said reverse way.
Reverse engineering, right? So oh, okay. At the beginning, I might have said I might have used it interchangeably. Sorry for that. Partition scheme, physical. Partition function, logical. Okay. So now let's try to understand what is right and left. Sorry. What is, oh my God. What is right and left? Okay. So when you say right, this is very, very, very important, guys. When you say right, how does the data looks like? So just understand this first, and then you will understand. First, I will go with integers, then it will be easy to understand dates. Okay. So first understand the integers. When I say create partitioning function name, this is nothing but function name. Okay. Ignore this. Data type as range right. Range. So what you are doing is range partitioning in SQL Server. We have different types of partitioning in other data types. For instance, Oracle and Postgres, they support list partitions, hash-based partitions. They have different types. But what we are doing in SQL, we call it as range partitioning. If someone asks you what is the partitioning type, what SQL supports, it is range partitioning. As I said, I will do reverse engineering. So if I say range, list, hash, everything now, it will be very difficult. So forget about this. Just forget about the definition also. Understand only the concepts. First, try to focus on concepts. Then we will get to know the definitions later. Okay. I'm talking about right now, partitioning function for the right. So how does the data boundaries create? How the boundary gets created when it comes to range right? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 means I will imagine there is one more thing that you have to understand, guys. When you're doing boundaries, okay, when you're doing boundaries, whether it is left or right, the number of values or number of boundaries what you are presenting here. So you will get n plus 1 partitions. Means if you have 4 boundaries, you will get 5 partitions. If you have specified 2 boundaries, you will get 3 partitions. I repeat again, the boundary values, whatever the values what you are passing, the boundaries, it is, if you are passing 2 boundary points, you will get 3 partitions. So it is nothing but if you are passing n boundaries, then you will get n plus 1 partitions. I repeat, n boundaries, you will get n plus 1 partitions. Is this clear or not? Because first thing what you have to understand is boundaries and then partitions. N boundaries is nothing but n plus 1 partitions, whether it's right or left, doesn't matter. Okay, means if you have 4 values here, how many partitions will I get? 5 partitions. If you have 2 boundaries, how many partitions will I get? 3 partitions. If you have
So
3,
why there is extra partition?
yeah, you'll get to know. You'll get to know. So first, this is a formula. Okay, just like maths, treat this as a mathematics. So this is a formula that you have to keep in your minds. N boundaries is nothing but n plus 1 partitions. Just you have to remember this. There are a few things that you have to remember. I'm sorry for that. N boundaries is nothing but n plus 1 partitions. Whether it is left or right doesn't matter. Again, I repeat, left or right doesn't matter at all. N boundaries is nothing but n plus 1 partitions. Okay. So coming to the data, means why we are dividing into boundaries. Why we need boundaries? Because we need to understand our, what can I say? The things that are under my control, right? Boundary is nothing but India can't jump into China's area and China can't come into Pakistan area. So there we are creating boundaries to safeguard ourselves, right? In the similar manner, when you are dividing the data, you should know what is that boundary limitation. You cannot go beyond that point. That is the main importance of boundaries. Boundaries are safeguarding us. They are protecting us so that we will not violate the, the terms and conditions. In the similar fashion, here, when it comes to partitioning, we have something called as boundaries. So that boundaries is helping me to define my data and to structure my data accordingly. So you cannot go beyond that point. Okay, why boundaries? If someone asks you what is the importance of boundaries, just like country boundaries, where it is protecting us to safeguard us not to violate the terms and conditions. In the similar manner, the values, whatever that we are passing inside the boundaries, will help us to safeguard our data. That is the importance of boundaries. Okay, so someone has to know that boundary point to have these partitions. So let's understand range right first, and you will get to know why boundaries and why n plus 1. So first understand right. As I said, there are 2 things here, right and left. Very important, right and left. So when I go with right partitioning, how does it work? So at the beginning, as I said, right is nothing but less than or greater than or equal to. This is how it looks. Any definition, if you read whatever the blog, it may be on internet. When you talk about right, they say less than or greater than or equal to, only these 2 terms. So what does it mean? How to understand this? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 boundaries. So I have to go with 5 partitions. Okay. How does the data looks like if I go with right partitioning? Okay. Anything less than 1. Anything less than 1. So how does the function looks like? I mean, right definition looks like less than. So it starts with less than. So it starts with less than, means anything less than 1 will fall into partitioning 1. Anything less than 1 will go into first partition. Greater than or equal to 1 means including 1. I repeat, including 1. Including 1 and less than 2. The next partition will go into partition 2. So what does this, what did you understand? What did you understand by right definition? Again, I will come back. We have to do reverse engineering a lot. So what is your understanding with right?
Vamsi garu, all the integers are going on to the right direction. That's what, according to the partitions, according to those boundaries.
Okay, very simple. To understand this very simply means the values what you are seeing, means the boundaries what you are seeing. Okay, when it comes to right partitioning, your first partitioning will be empty. Your first partitioning will be empty. When I say empty, that it means that this value will not be there. Okay, again I will repeat, this is very difficult to understand, but that's how it is. You have to understand. So let me show you that definition. Okay, so this is how, this is the definition, actually the right definition, how the boundary points is getting created. Okay, in a range right partitioning function, okay, that is what we are discussing. The boundary value is the first value of the next partition. Read this only, this line, the highlighted portion. First value of the next partition. What does it mean? First value of the next partition. Coming back to this slide again. First
So
value
it
of
will
the,
not write anything on the first partition.
yeah,
I mean, it will just point to the next partition and value will start from the next partition.
exactly. So first value of the next partition. So what is the next partition? So partition 1 will be empty. Empty in the sense, don't treat there is no data. That is not the case. Here I'm saying 1, 2, 3, 4. And this statement, what he's saying is the first value of the next partition. Okay, next partition. So what is my next partition? I have 5 partitions here. The next partition is partition 2. So this value goes and sit in the next partition. I repeat it again and again. The first boundary point will go and sit in the next partition. Okay, the first boundary point will sit in the next partition. That is the definition of right partitioning in very simple terms. The first boundary point will sit in the next partition. Okay,
and that is why we have extra one partition, that is we are skipping the first partition.
Yeah. So for right, it appears like this. For left, it works differently. So that is why we have n boundaries, n+1 partitions. Okay. So again, you have to understand this. Okay, now we have only 2 years here, right? Only 2 years. So 2009 and 2010. So if I go with right, how does it look like? So when I say okay, go again here. The first value of the next partition, first value will go and sit in the next partition. So here we have 2 partitions, right? So how many, 2 boundaries. How many partitions will I have? 3 partitions. So 2009, will it sit in the first partition? No. Okay, it will not sit in the first partition. As per this definition, the first value will sit in the next partition. Means if you have 2 boundaries, the first value, what you are seeing on the screen, will sit in the second partition. So as you can see, the value what I passed, 2009, the 1st of Jan 2009 will come and sit in the second partition. It will not sit in the first partition. Anything less than that will sit in first partition. Whether we have data or not, that's a different story. So what you have to understand is when I say right, the first boundary value will sit in the next partition. It will not sit in the first partition itself. Did you get this point or not? This is the most important thing that you have to understand when it comes to right. If you get this, you are done with partitioning. I mean, right and left is very easy. Any questions here? I will stop for so many. I'll wait for your questions here. It's okay. Did you get this concept clearly?
So Vamsi, so in each case, because the range start whatever we are giving the boundaries. So in each case of the right partition, the first partition will be empty. Right?
Empty. Exactly.
Logical, we can say.
Exactly. First partition
and that will be empty. I mean, whatever we are providing the range, that will not come into the first partition.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So
okay, and that's why we are having n+1, right?
Yeah. So let's understand this. If you say ABCD, okay, ABCD. Now we are going with n-var. Okay. Now the value of A, where does it sit?
It will be go to partition 2, right?
Partition 2. So here he is using left. That's a different story. But if I use right, where does this go? So first partitioning means anything less than A. Will there be anything less than A? Nothing, right? So it will be empty. And it starts from second partition. So A comes here. Greater than or equal to A will be in my second partition.
If we are talking about the numerical values, so 0 will be less than 1, right?
Of course, that's what I'm saying. If you have anything less than 2009 data, it will be there in that first partition. Whether you have data or not, it's a different story. First, you have to understand the definition of right. When I say right, the only thing what you have to remember is the first value. When I make use of right partitioning, Okay, the boundary value, whatever the first value that is appearing inside that list of boundaries, that first value will sit in the next partition. That is what you have to understand. Did you get this or not?
Okay. Yes, I got it.
Yeah. How about others?
And one more question here.
Yes, we got it,
bro.
Yes, I got it.
Yeah.
Actually, is there any scenario to get the data in first partition when we are using the right range? No chance, right?
So imagine, bro, imagine whether it's all about data, right? So whether we'll have data or not. So if you have sales data less than 2010, it goes and sits in the first partition. Okay, that's what I'm saying. It's not about data, whether you have data or not. That's a second story. That's a different story altogether. My main intention is how we are breaking that data into chunks, or how we are dividing into boundaries. So you have to understand boundary, whether you have data or not. It's a completely different story. So when I say boundaries, first thing that you have to remember is n boundaries is nothing but n+1 partitions. That is okay, right? Everyone understood n boundaries is nothing but n+1 partitions. Definitely. You get that or not? Yeah, that is clear. So coming to right, the first boundary will not sit in the first partition. It will start from the second partition. That is my second statement. Okay, whether you have data less than 2010 or not, it's a different story. If you have data, it will go and sit in that first partition. If it doesn't, then it is empty. Simple terms. If you have data, for example, if I do ABCD, like in this case, unfortunately, he has given left. If it is right, it would have made our lives easy. Okay, imagine this is right. Okay, anything less than A? No, right? So the first partition will be empty in case of this n-varchar partitioning, what we are doing. So anything less than A is nothing. So it will be empty with the first partitioning. So the second partitioning will hold the boundary point, first boundary point. So the second partitioning will hold the first boundary point when it comes to right. Understand that main concept. So here, if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, imagine you are maintaining age. Okay, age. You are doing partitioning on age. So age starts from 1, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So will you get anything less than 1? When I say age?
No.
No. So in that case, there will be no data. But when I say 2010, maybe anything less than 2010 may go and sit in this first partition. It depends on your data. If there is no data, then it is empty partitioning. If not, you will get some values inside it. So imagine you have data. So that is that go and sits inside this based on less than. So if you read like this, when someone says less than, greater than, or equal to, it's very hard to interpret. That's the reason I'm explaining you, slowly, that what is the meaning of less than and greater than or equal to. Leave about less than or greater than or equal to. That is not the right way to understand. What you have to understand is we have n boundaries. You will get n+1 partitions. That is the first thing. When I say right, the first boundary point will go and sit as the starting point or as the first value inside the next partitioning. That is the only thing that you have to understand. Okay. Again, I'm repeating n boundaries, n+1 partitions. When I say right, my first boundary point will go and sit in my second partition and it will be the first value. That is the first value, means greater than or equal to. So it starts from there. It starts from there. So that is the first value. Did you get this or not?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So now you understand.
I have a question, Vamsi.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
Is there any partition size for it? Because it is logically we are segregating. Is it any size also will specify at a logical time?
No, it's not possible. Not possible to specify the size when you are doing this partitioning function. It won't let you specify the size at the time of creation. It's not possible.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
And one more question here.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Here, boundary values are starting from 2010 January onwards, right?
Yeah.
If data in the main table, data is starting from the February 2009 onwards, then can we change the right values?
We'll talk about how the data looks like. Forget about all those stuff. Okay. First, understand. See, that's what I'm saying. Give your preference to understanding the concepts. Then you can play with that. Okay. When I say right, what is your perception now? So when I say right, only two things that should get first into your minds: n boundaries, n+1 partitions. When I say right, the first boundary point will go and sit in the second partition, and that will be the first value. That is from that point, my data continues. So that is what that should come to your minds when I say write. Is that clear?
Yeah, got it.
Okay, so this is how the data looks like. So that is the definition of less than or greater than. Now you can understand. So start here, leave that first partition empty. Okay, come to the second partition and place this as the first value. So greater than or equal to the first boundary point and less than the second boundary point. So now greater than or equal to 2015 and less than, greater than or equal to, and if you have any boundaries, it will continue, and less than, and greater than or equal to, and less than, greater than or equal to, less than. So it depends upon boundary points. Since we have 3 boundary points, we got 4 partitions, and this is how the data looks like when I go with write. Okay, so if you see the last partition, so it greater than or equal to 2020, and we don't have any other boundary points. Anything greater than 2020 will go and sit in partition 4. And anything less than 2010 will go and sit in partitioning 1. So this is about write. Did you get this? So why I'm focusing mostly on write, because when you use data types, okay, whether it is date time, date, a small date time, whatever it is, okay, write is the one that you have to make use of. Okay, write is the one that you have to make use of because there are some problems with left. So that is the reason I'm focusing mostly on write. Okay, so I will explain you what are those problems with a good demo. Don't worry about that. But first understand the importance of write. Okay, so you have to keep this picture, whatever that is appearing on my screen, into your minds. And 2 important things that you have to remember: boundary points, n boundaries, n plus 1 partitions. So the first boundary point will go and sit in the second partition, and that is from there. That will be the first value when I make use of write. Did you get this? That's the only, just break our things into chunks. Don't try to get all concepts at one shot. Is this clear? Right? Clear, right? I
Yes,
hope
yes.
so.
Yes.
Okay, so forget about left. I'm not going to go with left now because that will again create problems. Right, you got it right. That's it. Okay, leave this. We'll talk about left later. Coming to partitioning function. So we are splitting up the data. So this is nothing but logical division, logical segregation, and this is our physical segregation. So partitioning function, what is the definition now? So it is create partition function name, whatever it is, and you have to specify the data type as range right and left. We have only 2 types, range right and range left. As I said, I'm not going to discuss left now. We are just focusing on right for the moment. Okay, range right, and we are passing the dates. So usually I'm just letting you know, right is mainly meant for date types. Left is mainly meant for integer data types, but usually, as I said, it's very rare to divide your data based on, left partitioning, and that too with integers. But there are cases. So that's the reason I said I'm keeping that topic aside. We are just focusing on important things first. Okay. Coming to partitioning scheme. So we have divided the boundaries, and we created boundaries, and we created the partitions. Now I have to place this data on certain file groups. How to place this, right? Definitely I have to place somewhere about my data. I have the food with me. I have to find a place where I can sit and eat my food. So that is where partitioning scheme comes into picture. Partitioning scheme is helping you to place your data on file groups. In simple terms, on file groups. So again, there is a plenty of discussion on the internet whether to have different file groups or only one file group or just primary file group. It all depends upon use cases. First, we'll just try to understand what is partitioning scheme. Okay, we are not discussing on whether we have to place our data in different file groups. What is the performance advantages when I go with different file groups? What are the downsides if I just go with one file group? It's all different story. So we are not focusing on that. We are just trying to understand the concepts here. So what is partitioning scheme? So what does it does? So it takes my partitioning function. Okay, it takes my logical segregation, what I have done, and it keeps our data accordingly. So let's try to understand what is that. So it says create partition scheme. So here it is function, create partition function. Here it is create partition scheme. Scheme name as partition. Now you have to present the name of your partition function. So here I made use of partition function by name sales years partition. So I'm dividing my sales based on yearly partitions. So that is the reason he has given the name as sales year partitions. So now coming to here, what we are doing is create partition scheme. We are passing a scheme name and we are saying as partition, and we are specifying the name of our logical segregation. So this physical segregation is nothing but partition scheme, where we are passing the logical segregation name to that physical segregation. So we are saying partition function name here, and then you are saying the file group. So as I said, you can just pass primary and leave as is. We'll discuss about whether you have to go with different file groups or same file group or just primary file group. There are only three options. Just leave as is, which is nothing but primary file group. Okay. And we can just give some other user defined file group, just one file group. Okay. And or else you can give multiple file groups. So how many file groups that I have to specify here? That is the important thing. Okay. That is the important thing. Okay. If I am just going with primary, I can give primary. Okay. Imagine you wanted to gain the best practices, or if you wanted to follow the best practices. So how many file groups you want me to specify here? That is the important thing. Whether I have to specify 2 partitions or 3 numbers here. I mean to say segregation.
So, I mean, based on the partition, we need to specify the file group.
Yeah,
I believe
so it's very simple. Okay, it is n+1 that what you have to follow. If you are not following n+1, okay, you can just say primary. So it's a very big discussion whether to go with different file groups or not. So it all depends upon where you are keeping your data, that write levels, all those things comes into picture. Again, I have to explain this diagram to make understand all those topics. For the moment, imagine I'm just going with primary. Okay, just leave as is. So just think that I'm just keeping entire my data on primary file group. That's it. Just focus on that part. So did you get what is partitioning function and partition scheme for the moment? So
yeah.
N boundaries, n+1 partitions. And we are placing our logical stuff into physical representation by making use of partitioning scheme. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. I will stop here. Any questions? Let me know.
Azure MI can support this partitioning, Vamsi?
Yes, MI supports partitioning, but there are few things that we have to consider when it comes to MI partitioning. First thing first, guys, partitioning topic itself is very challenging. Okay. You go and watch any videos, it's very difficult to grab those concepts. Okay. So my intention is first you have to feel comfortable with on-prem or IaaS, doesn't matter. On-prem is our own data centers, IaaS, Microsoft data centers. So first you have to understand IaaS topics. It's nothing but on-prem. Okay. So try to understand on-prem means where we have the operating system. Later we can work on MI and Azure SQL. That's a different story. Don't just jump into complicated topics at one shot. You know one thing, if I explain split and merge with all the problems, what you can get, definitely will be shocked to see that these are the things that you have to remember. It's very, very, very complicated topic. Why I'm maintaining this big list, where is that? Here. Why I'm maintaining? Because there are so many things that you have to understand all these topics, especially partitioning. So first understand the topics. That is why I am not even explaining you the left also. If I go with left again, it will be a bit of confusion. So whatever that is required for us, first try to grab that. Later we will work on the remaining things. So that is my representation. Of course, it depends from person to person. It varies. So that this is my style of teaching. Any questions till now?
Sorry for my morning voice. If I have n boundary values, we will have n partitions, yes? n+1 partitions.
Yes.
And associated with these n+1 partitions, we will have n+1 file groups. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. N+1 file groups if you are maintaining them in different file groups. Okay.
Okay.
If you are not doing, just imagine, okay, here this guy is saying primary FG2, FG3. So he is maintaining n+1. what I am trying to conclude here is, if you are just maintaining it on primary, you just need to pass primary. You don't need to give FG2 or FG3. So SQL knows that entire data will go and sit only in one file group. So I can maintain my entire data in one file group, or I can maintain it in different file groups. If you are giving it in different file groups, then that n+1 comes into picture. If you are maintaining it on single file group, imagine I created user defined file group. So I will say UGF. In place of primary, I can just give UGF. So all my data will go and sit inside that user defined file group. Just imagine, just don't try to complicate things. Imagine you have a database. Okay, imagine you have a database and you have MDF and NDFs, right? MDF will always sit in primary file group. NDF, it is our choice. Is it right or not? NDF is our choice. We can keep our NDF files in primary file group, or I can create separate file group. Is that right or not?
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
Yes.
Obviously, right? It's our choice. In the similar fashion, when I'm doing partition scheme, it's my choice whether I can go with only one file group. It can be primary file group, or it can be user defined file group, or I can divide my stuff into multiple file groups. So just understand the database files strategy to understand partition scheme. I have a secondary file by name NDF, and I have multiple secondary files, NDF1 and NDF2. Okay. So what are the different options what I can get? I can keep my NDF1 and NDF2 in primary file group, just like MDF. That is one thing. Second thing, I can create a user defined file group and I can place those two files into that one single user defined file group, or else I can create two user defined file groups and can place each and every file into that respective file group. So I can say UGF1 for NDF1, UGF2 for NDF2. That is one thing. Or I can say UGF and I can place both those files into that one file group, or I can make use of primary, right? Those are the three options what I can think of when I'm placing my secondary database file. In the similar fashion, scheme also exactly same topic. So you can keep entire data into that primary file group, or you can create one user defined file group, or you can create multiple user defined file groups. Only when you are creating multiple user defined file groups, it has to have n+1 formula. Is that clear now?
Yeah, it is.
Vamshi, I have a question.
Vamshi,
Yeah.
Can we? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Meswin, go ahead. Go ahead. First,
So,
yeah.
as per your explanation, then I can repeat a file group when I specify the scheme. For example, in this case, I can say primary file group 2, file group 2.
Yeah, file group 2 and file group 3 as it.
File group 2, file group 2.
Yeah. So someone was about to ask. Go ahead. So here, see this one,
Yeah.
for example.
Vamshi,
I'm sorry, just sorry to break you, just for a second. So here he's doing the left, doesn't matter. We have created a partitioning function. Okay. And now when it comes to partition scheme, what he's saying everything to primary. That's it. Even though we have 4 boundaries and 5 partitions, we are not creating 5 user defined file groups here. We're just saying primary. That's it. Yeah, I will take your question. Go ahead.
Vamshi, for example, my base table has primary file group and one user defined file group.
Okay.
Okay. So while creating the partition scheme, I mean partition function as 2 boundaries. So that means n+1 partitions will get created. So as a best practice, you said while creating the schema, it should be n+1 file groups. It should sit on n+1 file groups. So my base table has only 2 file groups, that is default file group and one is user defined. So while creating the schema, I wanted to split across the file groups, but my base table has only 2 file groups. As per the requirement, we need to have 3 file groups here, right?
Yeah, as per the requirement, if you are going to have separate file groups, yes, you need to have 3 file groups. If not, you can make them sit under only one file group.
Okay.
So we cannot we cannot create an additional file group in the main table.
You can create. See, don't try to complicate things. As I said, just think of our database example, NDF file. Where can I keep my NDF file is a similar strategy for partition scheme. Okay, so that question what someone was asking is, he's having only 2 file groups. One is primary file group, which is by default, and he has created one more file group, user defined file group. and he has created 2 boundary points, which means 3 partitions. So where should my data go over there? Whether I have to go with primary, his question is like 3 partitions, right? So since I have only with 2 partitions, how can I conclude, or how can I specify here as part of partition scheme? That is his doubt, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So my answer to that question is, okay, leave as is means everything goes and sit inside primary, or else you have to go with primary and user defined file group, and you have to create one more if you wanted to leverage that extra partitioning stuff, or else just say secondary user defined file group. Just say primary, that is one answer. Just specify user defined file group, that is second answer. Third answer, primary user defined file group, and you have to create one more because you are specifying that one more as an n+1, you are maintaining n+1. Imagine you are not interested in creating that one more. What should be the case? If that is the case, you cannot, I think as far as I know, you cannot have the same names. Same names it will not allow. Means primary, user defined file group, and again user defined file group. That is not allowed as far as I know. You got my point? If you are trying to repeat the same names, primary, comma, primary, comma, primary, it won't take. Okay, so primary, secondary, no, it won't take. It has to be unique. It has to be unique. So that is the reason I'm saying either it has to fall into primary file group or secondary file group, or based on your file group names. Means primary, file group 1, file group 2. Like in this example, he's saying primary, which is default, and he has created 2 more file groups. So he's saying file group 2 and file group 3. You cannot have file group 2 and file group 2. Got it?
Got it.
Yeah. Oh my God.
When creating those file groups, so we are following the formula n+1. So what that n stands for? It's about number of partitions or number of
partitions, not boundaries. Boundaries, 2 boundaries, we get 3 partitions, right? So I have to keep my data into their respective file groups. So that is the reason I said first, let's keep our data inside an user defined file group. I'm not suggesting you to go with primary file group. Why? Because if something goes wrong, okay, since you are on enterprise edition, so this is for senior DBS guys. Of course, junior DBS can try to understand this. There is a concept called as piecemeal restore or partial database availability. Okay, means
file group, yeah.
If you are having enterprise edition, the beauty of enterprise edition, that is what you should understand. So if you are on standard edition, doesn't matter. If you are an enterprise edition, there is a concept where if primary file groups comes online, okay, it makes our database online. So it's like a partial restore. We'll discuss about the topic. So let me show you that also just for a second. Just give me a second, guys. So this is the demos, partial database availability. I will explain that as part of our partitioning classes. Okay, so the good practice or the best practice says, don't keep anything inside your MDF files. MDF files is only meant for storing your data definition. Means just your table names, the function names or object names, whatever that is there, it should be MDF. Everything else, it has to be in user defined file group, and it has to be in user defined data files, means NDF. It should not be anything inside your MDF. But none of us will practice that best practices. For sure, I can say that. We will go with just primary file group and just that MDF. And whatever the database size, it will not consider that. And in case of any disaster, so that is where the best practices will comes into picture. So you will get to know that when I'm teaching this, what is that? This one. I'm teaching this demo. What is that partial database availability? Why I have to keep my data only on secondary user defined file groups and files? So that is where.
Yeah. I have one question. How the partition and the file group is aligned, means how it is being identified, FG2, FG3 or FG4. Forget about the primary. I'm placing all the partition in user defined file group. So how it is identified which file group will contain the partition data?
That is the next topic that I have to explain. Not today, in the next class. So how it is getting mapped to each other. Yeah, that is fine. So these are the questions what I expect from people. So
because I'm trying to understand in the sequence how it is working and how it is aligned,
Yeah, so how they are getting mapped, like the partitions and file groups. If I'm specifying primary, that's a different story. As you said, if I'm specifying user defined file groups, how they are getting aligned to each file group individually. So
that's correct.
that's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Because
that
if
is.
something happened to my partition table, I should know which partition table and which file group I have to take the backup and
Yeah,
restore.
that's true.
Right.
That's true. So
Or
that is
purging data.
that. So that is the topic. What I said, that partial database availability is nothing but your question comes into this demo. So you have to wait for it, because if I if I teach now, it's very hard for others
I
to
totally
understand.
I totally understand. It
But
is
I will
hard
take
for
your
me
question.
also. Just
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
recalling,
Yeah.
I totally understand.
So first we will understand the demos slowly, and then we will go through that how that they are getting aligned internally. Okay. So yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah.
Two more small questions from my end. Actually, so the partitions data, 5 partitions data can be kept in the user-defined file groups only. It's not recommended to keep in primary file group. Is my assumption correct?
Yeah, that's true. See, the best practices say, that's what I'm saying. There are best guidelines, but it is up to the individuals to follow. Whether to follow or not, it depends upon your company and that individual who is carrying out that work. If you wanted to leverage the best practices says don't keep anything inside your primary file, which is nothing but MDF, and MDF by default goes into my primary file group. We have one file group which is default, nothing but primary, and one file MDF which is default again. So what best practices says is don't keep anything inside your MDF or primary file group. Keep it in a separate file group. Means create your MDF files and then create one user-defined file group and place your data inside that user-defined file group. That's what best practices is. But again, we are not at all following. We are just keeping that everything into our primary file group, and even we are not creating multiple files.
Yeah, in my last project, we were
Of course,
following the same best practices.
of course, the best practices, as I said,
because it will give you good idea, and while working on different partition on different file groups,
definitely,
and it will be easy to maintain.
So as I said, it's up to the individual to follow, whether to follow or not. So I am just letting you know the best thing that you have to do. First, we will try, when I'm teaching also, first I will not create any user-defined file groups. I will just go ahead and place my things, everything into primary, because you have to understand few more things. Because where you place your data, that is important. I'm not denying that. But rather than that, there are important things that you have to consider. Okay, especially this switch out and switch in. It's very, very, very important that you have to understand how it works rather than this partition scheme. Yes, I will explain partition scheme and how they are interaligned and what is the best practices in case of disaster, how to restore. That's all different stories. But on top of it, the things what you need to understand is what I'm going to teach you. Okay, that is very important. Split and merge, very complicated subject, and switch out and switch in, very important topics. So you have to understand that. As I said today, did you understand right now, right, how it works? Range, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that is focus on the important things. Try to understand the complicated things first. Next, you will go and see that the later topics. That's okay. I will show you. Yeah.
Yeah. And one more question. Actually, as you said, piecemeal restore. Here, only one file group should be restored. If you want to restore,
I will not. Sorry, I will not take your question because
okay.
That's not my intention today. My intention is only to teach why partitioning. So let's conclude our class. Why partitioning? Because what I'm trying to say here is many people think that irrespective of the number of years of data what you have inside that single table, partitioning will help you to improve the performance. That is not the case. Partitioning is mainly meant for manageability. That is first thing. Second thing, if you wanted to leverage very large tables efficiently, you have to make use of partition views and partition tables. So that will be explained in my later classes. For the moment, we are just going with partitioning. Okay, that is second point. Third point, what we learned. What is partition scheme and what is partitioning function? Partitioning function is logical segregation. Partitioning scheme is physical representation. So what is partitioning function? Function is nothing but we are defining boundaries. What are those boundaries? So boundary is nothing but it has have to have certain terms and conditions to place my data accordingly. So those are nothing but boundaries. So for keeping the boundaries, I have two things, range right and range left. So for the moment, we are just going with range right. What is range right? What is range right? Range right is nothing but my value, the first value, whatever that is specified in my boundary point will go and sit in my second partitioning as the first value. It starts from there. So these are the things that you have to understand. That's it. nothing more else. So you don't need to worry about the other topics. I am there to help you with that. Just keep these points.
Okay, okay. Sorry.
No. I'm not. I'm not denying your question, but I'll take your question maybe bit later.
So this is all horizontal partitioning.
Yes,
we were
these are all
discussing, right?
horizontal partitioning. We are not touching any vertical partitioning. And so again, someone at the beginning, they were asking me how about standard edition. Unfortunately, you will not get all these things on standard edition. Standard edition, you have to go with partition views. So I will explain that partition views also. You don't need to worry. So as I said, I am thinking that only partitioning itself will take around 15 classes also. I am expecting 15. It may go beyond that also, because there are so many things. As at this beginning, I told you, whatever that is there, that is available on the internet, I grabbed all those things and I'm going to present those topics for you. All the complicated things on the partitioning, I will try to explain. Different scenarios that what you can think of at one place. Okay, so that is what my training is all about. I'll stop here. I thought of showing a demo, but it's not possible because it's already 10:30. I am a bit thirsty. So I'll stop here and in the next class. So again, if I just go with weekends, it may not work for me. I have to go and try to consume on weekdays also to complete this. Because if I just go with weekend, I will be able to complete only partitioning for this year. I can surely say that.
Also forget.
We will also forget. So I have to take classes continuously to make this work. So the timings, it depends, guys. So I'm giving you the recording session upon completion of the class. So I request you to watch if the time is not permissible, because I have people all from all around the world. Means there are people from Canada, Australia, Middle East, everywhere. So I cannot satisfy everyone. So I will give the best timings that suits Indians, because most of them are Indians. But that's the reason I will give 100% preference to Indians. But if that is not the case, try to watch the recording sessions also. Please save my time and your time. Sorry for that. Okay.
By doing partition.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So I will post the recording session, and next class will be straight away on to demos. So you will get to know some important things.
Thank you so much, Vamsi, for your time.
Thank you, Vamsi.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you,
problem.
Ramsey.
Take
Thank
care.
you, bro, for your
Yeah.
time.
No
Bye.
problem. Bye. Bye.